a big man.
Well,
I just wanna fight with everyone else.
So my cousin and I have a thing for like planning adventures, and we decided we were gonna climb Mount Marcy in New York. And it's like a 14-mile hike round trip. It was like one overnight. And so as we're climbing up the mountain, a snake falls out of a tree between the two of us, and we start screaming, and we both sprint in opposite directions. And so like we get up the mountain and we get back, and there's more, like there's snakes everywhere this entire trip, which creeps me out a little bit. And when we get back, we end up having a sing-along on the ride out in like the car back to camp of old Irish drinking songs, because that's like our parents' main repertoire.
Me and Jared were wading the Looking Glass River, and I don't know, we were having some luck. He was having a little bit of luck catching a couple of smallmouth.
Whatever.
And got to this point, we saw this dogfish just in the rocks, in between a couple rocks, and he couldn't get it to bite his bait. He was holding it in front of his face and he just wouldn't go for it. So I had a Mepps rainbow spinner on, and it has a treble hook on it, so I just snuck it in there behind the rocks and snagged him, and
it wrapped around my legs.
I'm telling the story.
Sorry.
He just took off. He went around me, around Jared's legs, and my pole went into the water, and it was crazy. I almost lost my pole. I got a side cramp, so I almost fell over. It was unfortunate.
So where I live, my property backs up to 58 acres of woods, and my brother and I, when we were little, we used to chase geese down and take their babies from them, because you know how geese follow their moms. Well, this one time we took the back one and we started running away, and both parents chased us through the woods and almost pecked us to death, and it was one of the best memories I've ever had in my life.
Okay, I want to talk about my basement because it's really gross. It's like the kind of basement that's like not okay. It's really dirty, but it has like that moldy smell. It just smells really bad. Like there's literally black mold in one of the corners. My dad like refuses to like say it's black mold, but it's like black mold because it's black and it's on the walls. And my old dog sleeps down there. He doesn't have any hair really. It's like really gross, and like everybody's like, oh yeah, no, my basement's gross too, but it's like, no, my basement's really gross.
You gotta be a little smarter.
Alright, you're good to
Try
go.
a little bit harder. You gotta do what you can to get on down the line.
At his house, and it was like blizzard everywhere. And Emma, it was like her first winter storm, so we were driving and she was deciding to go, like, how were you going? She was going 30 and a 25, which is like normal, but in the snow, you know, you don't want to go so fast. And she did like a really hard turn, and we went to someone's ditch in someone's driveway, and we did like a 180 around their driveway, and we felt so bad. And I felt like we were going to flip over because her car's a Jeep and it's like really light. And so, near-death experience with Emma George. Almost died.
So I watched stuff about other schools' percussion sections, and apparently other schools think that their percussionists are also parts of cults, and like I identify with that because our percussion section is kind of like a low-key cult, which is pretty cool, and like, we have a lot of traditions, and I think that's really cool. And that's my favorite thing about life.
Alright, so I was in 4th grade, Mr. Balzer's class, and my desk mate was Faith Brown. I had this little pen cap, and it had a little squishy thing on top, so I took it off and I named it Squishy. Every day I would just play with Squishy, and one day I came into class and was bored, so I looked for Squishy and I could not find Squishy. So I was freaking out, looking everywhere in my little desk cubby, and I could not find him at all. So I looked over to Faith Brown and accused her of stealing my Squishy, and to this day she still has not returned my Squishy. And that is my life story.
Me and my sister were home alone. I just had a sleepover with my best friend Kelsey, so I was really tired and kind of grumpy. And my sister I go downstairs and I see my sister eating something, and I go up to her and I'm hungry and I'm like, what are you eating? She says, oh, just the potato chowder. And I had written my name on that soup because my parents bought that soup for me because it was my favorite and it was the last one. So I got a little bit upset, started yelling at her a little bit, and then she was being a jerk. Okay. She unscrews the cap of her water bottle and like chucks it at me, and it hits me right in the forehead. And that's kind of when like I snapped. I was just like, no, you ate my soup and you threw a water bottle cap at me. Someone's gonna die. And so I run into the living room and I'm chasing her, and she sits down on like our piano bench, and I run up to her and I'm like, I push her off. And I was going like full speed, and I ran into her legs because she threw her legs up, and she flips off backwards and lands on her back. And I just start freaking out. I'm like, oh no, because she's crying on the floor, and she said she couldn't move. So I like went to go call my mom, and I was so scared that I was gonna get grounded. So I was like, no, they don't need to know. It's fine. It's okay. It's gonna be fine. And then I called my mom, and the ambulance came, and all the neighbors came, and yeah.
There was this one time when I was like, I think I was like 8, and I went to the supermarket with my mother, I think, my mom and my aunt, and we were going down the vegetable aisle, and these two people saw us from like, you know, like across the aisle or whatever. And they were talking to my mom because they were like friends from high school or whatever. And then, so I went over to the fruit section and I grabbed like a bunch of oranges because my mom asked me to, you know, like a group of oranges. And then on my way back over there, I saw my teacher from school. So I gave these oranges back to my mom. And then on the way over to meet my teacher, I was like, I called her name, and I tripped and I fell. And I knocked over a whole entire shelf of the stand, like the peanuts on a stand, the cardboard stand, and I just went all into them, and then I was just laying on a floor that was like covered in peanuts. Yeah, probably one of the most embarrassing times ever.
Okay, so I used to go to Bath until I was in like 1st grade, and then my dad got a job in Howell, so we moved to Howell, and it was a really big transition because there's 7 elementary schools compared to 1 elementary school here. And then elementary school was fine because obviously you didn't move like to different schools to do work or whatever. But when you got to middle school, there were 2 floors, and we had over 700 kids in our classes. So I didn't know everybody that was in my class. I'd be like walking down the hallway and someone would be like, oh yeah, hey, how are you? I'm like, I don't know who you are. But I like it here a lot better since there's like not as many people. And you get to know people more and actually interact with them. So then when I was in 8th grade, I moved back here because my dad got a job in China. So my mom and I wanted like the small field bath, and like we knew everybody and we were really comfortable. So we moved back, and now I'm here with all my friends, and they really like it.
Well, I've lived in Bath my entire life, and I mean, from the beginning it's been small town, same old stuff. I ended up going to, kind of going off the beaten path, going to we used to have a half a day through criminal justice, kind of getting out of the town for a day or so, and you know, doing what most kids don't do, and kind of going to college before college even starts, and trying to get the adult life going.
Dig a little deeper, you push a little bit further. You gotta do what you can to not be left behind. You gotta do it for yourself, and I will too.
So you're like cross country.
You gotta put it all behind you, leave nothing to remind you. You gotta put it all away to get out what's inside. You be honest with yourself, and I will too. You gotta do it for yourself, and I will too. You gotta speak a little louder,